It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 229. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Kodra.
Howdy.
And Tam.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving weekend. I'm hoping everyone had a good Thanksgiving.
Welcome to Christmas music season.
I feel like that happened well before Thanksgiving, because
but now I'm actually okay
commercials, the Christmas commercials started Halloween night.
I'm sorry, what?
Christmas commercials, the stupid Lexus commercials where people give away cars, apparently, because that's a normal human being thing to do.
Commercials. What are these commercials we're talking about here?
So you have to actually watch television
to
see them. It's the blinky box that sometimes has commercials.
Oh, where I watch Netflix? Yeah.
You can pay a whole bunch of money for less good Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seems like a deal.
But this year that all started October 31st, and it was crazy. Also, this seems to be the season of people committing atrocities with food. Because, I've seen a lot of really sketchy ideas for things to do with Thanksgiving leftovers. Real sketchy.
Other than make that turkey soup?
No, okay, so we're going to talk about this a little bit, because I got some delivered to me that was super sketchy. But the worst one that I've seen is take the basic contents of a Thanksgiving dinner, put it in an ice cube tray, make gravy ice cube.
Stop, please.
Oh, that sounds gross.
And then coat it in mashed potatoes and make a ball, and then dip it in batter and then fry it so that you have a weird Thanksgiving bomb. My mother, however, decided to make Thanksgiving casserole and gave us portions of it, and
that could be okay.
I mean, it was a base level of stuffing with turkey on top of that, and I think gravy on top of that, and then mashed potatoes, and
it's sounding less okay as you keep adding ingredients.
And the French onions on top. It tastes better than it looks.
I'm sure.
But I've seen so many of these questionable choices. Someone was hawking a recipe for a Thanksgiving stromboli.
So I understand the desire here. There's a whole lot of turkey that you have after Thanksgiving, and so a lot of it's going to be white meat, because that is the objectively worst meat, and that meat becomes instantly terrible at the day after. And oftentimes the day of, because it gets overcooked. So I understand, I have a lot of white meat, I want to figure out something to do with it. It's just, these are bad sounding ideas.
I mean, I feel like the appropriate thing is
with the correct idea.
Right, is turkey noodle soup, or turkey and dumplings, or some kind of a soup-based thing.
Sure, yeah, that's correct.
I mean, turkey sandwiches themselves aren't bad either.
Yeah, so, I took a bunch of the white meat, I put some oil and garlic in a pan, and then I sauteed the turkey and the white meat until it was brown, toasted some of the rolls, and put cranberry jam on them, and that was amazing.
That also sounds reasonable. Thanksgiving bombs, though, don't sound like a good idea.
No, that's because they're not.
Anyway, hopefully all of our listeners had a really good Thanksgiving, and they did not partake of any of these questionable foods. So one of the rolling topics has been something that I'm kind of calling hardcore mobile. I've been on... Okay, so kind of like I did with Guild Wars 2, I have been trying to understand mobile gaming, because it's not been a thing that I've really cared about. Mobile as in phone. And as a result, like, I've played a bunch of different games, and one of them that I checked out was the Walking Dead Pokemon Go clone, which honestly has like a lot of cool things going for it. It has like it's got some cool stuff going on in that there's a PvE raid kind of aspect to it where you're like working on objectives as a group, but this requires you to be in a clan of sorts, and like they limit the clan size to 25 players. And it has shocked me just how much like a normal MMO guild this has been. Like, everything that you see happening in an MMO guild is happening on this phone game. And like the level of organization, because it has this mechanic where you can drop a flare, and then it lets players to basically warp to your location and fight whatever happens to be at that location. So some of these objectives are kind of obtuse, like kill a bunch of armored walkers with a specific character from the show. But any given like encounter may only have like one armored walker. So people would drop flares anytime they found like an infestation that has like 3-4 rounds worth of armored walkers, so that you could, get a bunch of kills and all work towards this goal that the entire clan is working towards. So it just kind of floored me to see that level of engagement from a phone game.
Does it require you to be like a local player? Like, are you part of your local community's guilds?
In theory, like, so I was in a basic Tulsa area based clan, and there's, I don't know, probably 100 or so that it listed as being within a 20-mile radius of me. And the theory is, yeah, that you would be playing with local players. It's a little bit more forgiving than Pokemon Go in that, like, you don't have to be as close to a lot of the things to actually be able to participate.
You can just hop on your phone?
Yeah, you just hop on your phone, and there are certain things that only spawn if you're like within a radius of them, but there's other things that are like infestations and safe houses and things like that you got a pretty generous several block radius that you could actually interact with stuff. So that was kind of cool. Like, you could walk around and pick up supplies, but you could also just like hang out in bed before going to sleep and take out, the 4 or 5 things that were within range of you. So this was all like mostly cool, except for a few weeks ago. Actually, it's about a week ago at this point. I logged in to see how well we were progressing on the objective and found that I had been kicked out of the clan because I wasn't active enough. And apparently what active enough means is killing an average of 200 zombies every single day.
Put this in Pokemon Go terms for me.
God, I don't even know. Like, so say probably catching 50 or so Pokemon a day.
Okay, that sounds unreasonable.
It sounds very unreasonable, yeah. I mean, like, the amount of time it would take to catch 50 to 60 Pokemon is probably about the same amount of time that you would have to do to take out 200 some zombies. And I guess as a clan leader, you have some kind of a metric to show how active the players are. And I guess it makes sense because like there's only 25 players that can be in any given clan. And as we got up in the requirements, like a lot of these requirements were really kind of rough. Like kill 400 of a specific kind of walker with a specific character or a specific weapon. The rewards kept going up, but like the amount of time needed to do the objectives also went up. And like you basically have a week to get as many of these done as you can in order to progress to like the next tier of rewards. So I have a feeling like most clans stall out at a certain point because we had just gotten into what they were calling the gold tier. And I don't know if there was anything higher than that, but like all of the objectives were painful. So like one of them was, I forget what it was called, but it was like Lone Gunman or something like that. And a single player in the clan has to have taken out 1,000 walkers. Like, it's not an additive where just someone in the clan by themselves has to take out 1,000 walkers.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
in
like,
a day?
No, in the course of a week. So if you're averaging 200 a day, then sure, you can do this thing. It just, I guess it floored me, like the level of engagement that I was seeing from these players. Like I knew Pokemon Go, especially in the raid community, was super serious, but like I largely chalked that up to just being a Pokemon thing.
Well, but even in the raid community, like, I don't think there are guilds or anything like that. Like, it's just, if you want to raid, you go and you do a raid. Like, there's not, oh, we're 25 people and we can only have 25 people in our clan. I feel like that artificial limit is what is really kind of messed up.
No, I mean, there's raiding communities in my area. Like, there's one in my hometown, and they go out a couple times a week and will like hit all of the raid pops in my small suburb.
In Pokemon Go?
Yeah.
But I think the point Kodra's making, though, is that
you're not necessarily artificially limited.
There's no reason for them to exclude people.
Right.
Whereas it sounds like there is in this other game.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, sounds a lot like some AAA games that I've played.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely.
It sounds very familiar. In fact, I remember when WoW did that exact thing.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the raid apocalypse?
Yes.
But I guess that's the thing, is like, so I went into this mission trying to better understand phone gaming and did not expect to see basically a mirror of everything that I've seen in every MMO.
See, you understand it now.
Yeah,
I guess I understand it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I guess the part, my take on that is I'm surprised that you didn't expect to see that.
I didn't expect to see that because, like, in my head, like, phone gaming is a thing that you do in your spare time casually, not this is a primary means of playing games.
Yeah.
But I also totally missed the Clash of Clans thing, and like folks on my blog said, "Oh no, Clash of Clans was even more serious." Because honestly, like that style of game never appealed to me. So yeah, like I missed that whole bubble. Like I knew there were some limits in the number of people that you could have in a group, but I didn't tag along. So, and this isn't a thing like, oh no, somebody kicked me out of a thing. It's just I was shocked at how serious these people are about this game. And like I've seen the same level of engagement with Pokemon Go, but like I said, I just assumed that was because of the IP. Like people are super passionate about Pokemon, but apparently people are also super passionate about Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Even though this season has the lowest ratings of any season to date.
But I don't think it's about the IP, like, at all. I mean, I think the IP doesn't hurt, and the IP helps it go mainstream, but the reality is the vast majority of people who play video games are playing them on their phones. And the same types of mentalities and communities that arose in the gaming industry have arisen just way faster in mobile because they had the, like, console and PC gaming, like, seed.
It's just a vastly different experience than what, like, I had seen in, say, Dragalia Lost, where largely you're just randomly interacting with people. You're not actually really interacting with people, other than using the hey emote when somebody's not clicking on the button.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was going to say, I thought there was raiding in Dragalia Lost as well.
Well, yeah, there is, but
there
like,
is.
You're just doing it with randos, so...
Can you not do it with friends?
You could, if you can organize it, but like, I'm sitting in bed. I'm not going to contact people I actually know to like set up a raid, so...
but yeah, it's sort of the thing, I mean, what's the thought? It's like, I had a thought and it's just evaporated.
Is this kind of like how I mean, Bell, I feel like you've also sort of gotten to the point where you don't want that much organization in your play.
Oh yeah,
it's honestly
lessons learned. Yeah, lessons learned from MMOs. As it turns out, you really want your experience with other players to be unequivocally positive, and so if you don't do that, then if you make it so that you basically can't communicate, turns out works pretty well.
I mean, even if you mention this hardcore raid thing in Pokemon Go, if somebody else just happens to show up, well then
they get to ride along, for the fun.
They're also in that hardcore raid. They're also contributing, and they also get the rewards.
Yep. It doesn't matter how hardcore those people are. You can still participate.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I like that model a heck of a lot better than you and 25 people, have to work your little butts off to try and meet some quota in order to get rewards at the end of the week.
Yeah, I mean, if people were still making MMOs, I'd be really excited to see the ones that don't have group size limits.
And it's weird how we've gone from no group limit size to having them, and now people are trying to figure out ways to make it work without it again. Because, back in EverQuest, sure, each individual party had a limit, but, because it was an open world thing, there were no limits on raids. And especially towards the end of it, if you needed just to get keyed for something, you could ride along on a kill, and you would still get the kill credit, even though you didn't necessarily get any of the loot for it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's other MMOs learning the wrong lesson from EverQuest. Because EverQuest did have strict group sizes, but you mostly didn't pay attention to them because a lot of the groups you were in either weren't a max size group or were well above a max size group. And I think that the next tier of MMOs, WoW very specifically, said EverQuest didn't do enough to enforce the group size limit being meaningful. Let's make that happen. But I don't think that was the right lesson to learn. But it wound up being
there are definitely valuable things you can have from having a defined group size, or even a bounded group size.
It's true. Absolutely.
Well, but the weird thing about EverQuest
because you can see from Guild Wars that encounter design suffers.
Oh yeah.
When you can just say anybody can come.
I want to say the group size limit in EQ was 8 players, and there wasn't a raid in the game that could be done with 8 players. Not unless it was ancient content that you were way overpowered for. So, right out of the gate, taking down Vox or Nagafin required you to break the bounds of the grouping system.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a thing that worked. So, every time we were in hate or fear or something like that, we at least had 2 full groups. Sometimes a third party that had just a handful of people, and you'd set up macros so that you could target the other group's players.
And I think Ash is right that there's a bunch of stuff that you get by having a bounded group size. But I also feel like we, as designers, games have on the design side, games have explored all of the things to do with a bounded group size and have not really spent any time thinking about unbounded group size mechanics and how those should work. Guild Wars 2 is really the only one that's even tried. And certainly World of Warcraft early instances were not good. As far as interesting boss mechanics, it's hey, are you tanking and spanking? Okay.
Yeah, but their world bosses weren't any better.
Oh yeah, no. That's what I mean. I feel like there's a bunch of I'm gonna make a bunch of people angry design space for different group philosophies, and we've only really explored a small number of them.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. It still doesn't feel like we've ever gotten back to the hey, we're all in this together, really focused on big armies of people and what you can do with those big armies of people. And how you make it so that it's fun to be a big army of people fighting stuff together.
Or even just, hey, I ran into another person. Is this a positive experience? That's the one that gets me.
And, Kodra said it earlier, that my tastes have moved away from wanting to set aside, like, a night each week to do a raid. And as a result, like, I've tended to gravitate towards games more like Destiny 2 or Monster Hunter World, where, like, I can hop in and do some stuff and feel like I accomplished something without the need to, like, really plan it out. I mean, sure, I'd like to do more serious raiding in Destiny 2, but, like, I haven't figured out when I can make that happen.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
I feel like one of the things is getting the point to where the very cool stuff doesn't require that extra effort on players. Like, I do think LFR's a really good idea, and trying to come up with encounter designs where you can do the cool stuff in a big group and you don't necessarily need that coordination is a good idea. But also just scaling down the number of people to do anything is probably a pretty good idea as well.
Well, and this will be a segue into another topic, but, like, I feel like Final Fantasy XIV with their 24-player content did a fairly good job of that in a few cases. Like, as the content has gone on, I feel like maybe not all of the outings have been as good as, like, Crystal Tower was. But I feel like it's a good model where, I'm gonna do stuff with my little group of 8 random players, and it's going to feel like I'm doing more stuff, since we're gonna have 24 players. So, and to some extent, that's the way raiding in Dragalia Lost is as well. Like, you enter with your 4-player group that's your NPC group, and there'll be, like, I think 3 total groups, or 4 total groups. 4 total groups. Yeah, so you're each basically controlling your own little team. So it feels like you're doing something bigger, but the personal scale is limited to only having to care about a handful of people. Now, that said, any one of those parties can screw things up for everyone else. But when we weren't hitting griefer parties, it was a decent experience.
I'm actually not sure how that is. I feel like you'd have to run into at least, like, two people trying to mess it up in order for it to mess up. And at which point, that's half your group.
Right. I meant more like in 14. Like, if you had one group that was screwing it up for the entire team, like, that could be bad. But yeah, in Dragalia Lost, it's like, if you got 2 people that are competent, for the most part, you're going to win one of the raid encounters. Especially that last one where, like, just so long as one player goes one direction and another player goes the other direction, breaking those orbs, yeah, you were totally going to beat the boss.
Details. You can also just all go in the same direction and then realize that as time is almost done, you still have one unbroken one, and everybody rushes for it. I don't know.
I've never actually had that happen like that.
I did.
Like for me, it's like everybody seemed to pick a random direction and hoped that they'd cleared all the ones. I'm not a huge fan of the current encounter.
It's okay.
Anyway, so segueing to 14, FanFest happened, and we didn't talk about it last week, and I didn't realize until we got off the air that we really hadn't talked about it. I have to say, I like the model that Square uses where they're only going to have a FanFest if they've got something to announce.
As opposed to just always having a FanFest.
Yeah, because I think that's a lot of the problem that we have sometimes with BlizzCon, is when they have an off year where they really don't have much to talk about, it kind of feels weird. Like, I would feel bad if I paid money to go to, like, this past BlizzCon. Whereas FanFest is always going to be something cool, because, like, they only have it when they're going to do an expansion.
So is there I thought they've had... Don't they have multiple FanFests? Is that what happens?
Right. They have 3 FanFests in a row. They have European, a United States, and Japan FanFest. And I think Tokyo is the last one. I think in all the cases it's been the very last one. And it gives the total reveals for everything. Whereas, like, Las Vegas, they do some major announcement or two. Then, Germany, they do some major announcement or two. And then by the time they get to Tokyo, like, it's the full deal, and they usually tell us when the expansion is actually going to be released. So the expansion is Shadowbringers, and it seems to be going in a direction that I thought we were going to go in for a long time ago. To where
are we finally going to the world of dark?
We are now going to be the Warrior of Darkness. Because like it seemed like that was going to happen a long time ago.
Evan's Ward had a lot of foreshadowing for this, yes.
Yeah, but apparently it's actually happening, and we see I don't know what the main job's going to be, I guess.
It's Dark Knight.
Dark Knight?
It's Dark Knight.
Yeah. Well, because during that trailer, he goes through, like, every job. Like, he's a samurai for a while. He's a machinist for a while. He's a warrior for a lot of it.
I mean, Warrior of Light, right?
Yeah, literally. So I've not seen where people talked about dwarves. I've not watched the full reveal, but I've tried to pick up bits and pieces of it. I know in our internal channel, folks were you talking about dwarves, Ash?
I was, because Yoshi P mentioned it.
Okay. It made me go back and realize that dwarves in the Final Fantasy universe are really freaking weird.
Oh.
They kind of look like bombs. Like they're just kind of a black ball with eyes.
That's what they look like in 4 and 5, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They look super creepy in 9.
I wasn't sure if we had seen dwarves somewhere in Final Fantasy XIV at this point, because what you were describing sounds like another enemy type that I'm failing to remember the name of.
A Spriggan?
Yes.
Spriggan.
No, not like that.
I don't know what people are talking about. Dwarves or elves. Just underground.
They're ground elves.
Dwemer.
Everything's an elf in Elder Scrolls.
It's true.
Orsimer are the best elves, because they're the least elves.
Not sure that's true.
But yeah, so like I would be down with dwarf stuff. It would give me another short race to play.
They're probably not going to be a playable race.
No, they'll probably be Beast Tribe.
Yeah, that's the context that they brought them up in. There will be another playable race.
Yeah.
2?
Just one.
Just one?
I mean, like, I would really like to see them introduce something that's not just excessively waifu.
I have bad news for you.
I know.
Because Yoshi P's big hint was his big giant Bugs Bunny shirt.
Oh, Vieira or whatever?
Yeah.
It seems real likely.
Well, that's okay. Fran was a badass. Like, Fran was never not in my party. She was awesome.
What was the other thing that I heard? I heard that there was a blue cape or something like that shown off.
That was basically fully revealed. The CEO came on stage with a blue mask and cape, and then the next day they went into the details as to what Blue Mage is.
Yes, so you can be a cross between Tuxedomask and Napoleon.
And it's like the most monkey paw shit ever.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry.
What
does that mean?
Blue Mage is being introduced as a limited job.
Alright, this is already concerning to me.
What's a limited job?
It's basically going to be its own thing that you can play in the overworld, sort of, but not in instances because it doesn't have a party role.
Oh.
It's its own thing.
Level cap is going to be 50 when the game starts, so you can't even play it as your main job.
Wow.
Like, it looks like you're going to be able to go into instances, but it's basically a solo encounter.
It's going to have its own unique instance.
What the hell is the point?
It's a single player Blue Mage that's as powerful as Blue Mages traditionally are. But I get what they're trying to do. They're basically trying to give people level 5 death without it totally breaking the rest of the game.
I don't think I understand what they're trying to do.
I do understand, I just don't like it. They want to have a Blue Mage that is like a traditional Blue Mage where you go around and learn all the various actions and so on and so forth. And they don't want party balance to be based on how many actions you know. They don't want to have to worry about, have you completed your Blue Mage before you join this party? Or what party roles does Blue Mage take? They just decided, can we just opt out of that? And I guess they came up with yes, but I'm not a fan.
They came up with yes in the wrong way. Class quests exist.
But that doesn't feel very Blue Mage-y.
Look, for video game designers, I can write a quest that feels Blue Mage-y. That's not hard. Hey, your quest objective is to go get hit by this ability. Now you know it. Blue Mage. Like, how does that not feel like Blue Mage? And literally it exists as mechanics in that game already.
I feel like that was exactly how I was envisioning them doing this. Like, they would have all of the major skills where you would have to go and basically take a hit for something, and you would maybe have a couple of other skills that you had. But ultimately, all of the Blue Mage skills put together made something that was balanced. And you probably dropped stuff like level 5 death.
Well, and the other interesting thing about it, though, is the fact that they've changed it to where you don't actually even have to get hit by it. You just have to see the monster perform the attack.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they took that. This all sounds like they are dropping the ball dramatically on a thing that shouldn't be that hard, and yet here we are making it hard for some reason.
I mean, they've had kind of a massive backlash about this limited job concept, so who knows if it will change? Because the thing is like everyone has wanted.
I mean, it's coming in the next patch, so it's not going to change before now and then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're releasing it ahead of time, kind of like they did with
Ninja.
Which that's a good idea and worked very well for Ninja. I wish they'd done it for Red Mage. But like, really what this feels like is more, hey, we want to do some monkey's paw shit. What's a good way to cram it in? Blue Mage. Not, hey, we're really committed to the idea of Blue Mage. Because quite frankly, as I said, writers exist.
Well, and they said there would be multiple class reveals.
I mean, there's going to be something involving a gunblade, probably.
Yeah. And I'm
but
just wondering...
have given any hints as to what that is yet.
I'm just wondering, like, how many more things are going to end up being limited jobs and not real jobs?
Probably just this one.
Man, that's really disappointing. I hadn't heard all of that. I was really looking forward to Blue Mage for you, Ash, because I know you've been wanting that for a while.
I've been back playing 14 this week quite a bit. I don't, like, for whatever reason, I've had trouble getting back into the game. And I finally just joined in, like... So Saul has kept the guild active this entire time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty impressive. And, like, they have planned nights. So I tagged along for Eureka, which in itself is kind of a miserable experience, but it was fun roaming around with multiple people. And Pix basically chauffeured us through the content, taking me from, like, level 1 to level 8. But now that I've been back, I'm kind of trying to pick back up where I left off in the main story quest so that I can at least see what the hell has happened this expansion.
Yeah, I need to do that, but it's one of those, like, there's so many things to play, and I'd like to play it. But
weirdly, I've mostly been playing Samurai because it seems to have an easier time questing than Warrior does.
That's generally true of DPS classes.
I gotta be honest, like, unfortunately for me, I feel like I got to the point where I was once again like, boy, I don't feel like I'm really enjoying this hotbar combat, and I'm not sure I ever will again. I'll try and give it another shot, but it feels creaky anytime I get into a fight.
It feels what?
It feels kind of clunky.
Have you tried playing a class that isn't Dragoon?
I haven't, and I should, but
yes.
That would require
you should totally try Samurai. It's a lot of fun.
I find melee classes. I find that I deeply dislike playing melee classes in that game. In the way that some people really like, I find that all of the classes feel a little different, and in a lot of cases, like, I don't like playing melee classes in that game. But I also know people who can't stand playing ranged classes in that game for reasons bizarrely similar to me not liking playing melee classes.
Weirdly enough, like, it's one of the few games that I like finger wigglers in.
I'm a lot better caster in that game than I am in WoW.
Yeah,
same.
Like, I enjoy playing a summoner. It's kind of fun, which is not a thing that I ever thought I would say.
I do enjoy summoner.
I like Red Mage a lot.
I'm very sad about a thing that they are absolutely committed to that just doesn't work for me. Like, they want you to grind your like not main class up.
Yep.
And there's just nothing fun to do.
Nope.
To get that class leveled up.
I mean, that's really the root problem I have with this game when an expansion comes out. Is like the first class I level is a pure joy. Like, the experience is so good.
It's amazing.
The second class that I level, because I feel like I need options, is just sheer misery.
Yep.
And at the moment at which I hit the level cap on class number 2, I bounce hard. It happened in Stormblood. It happened in Heavensward.
Yeah. No, that's
it's
absolutely
just the thing I go through.
I made the mistake. I remember like going back and forth and having this discussion when Stormblood was coming out. That was like, I love Red Mage to death. Do I actually want to make it the class that I level up first? And I did, and I shouldn't have.
You should have picked a healer.
I should have picked Summoner.
See, and whereas I feel like I made the mistake by leveling my tank first. I should have leveled my DPS with the quest assistance, and then I could have just lived in the dungeons on the warrior.
So the reason that it's Summoner specifically is because that also gives me a healer. So I hit max level with 2 roles I can play. And I don't really tank that much in that game, so I'm covered. And then if I want to level anything else up, it's because I want to, not because I feel like I have to have options.
Yeah, Summoner Scholar is such cheating.
It's Druid and WoW. It's Druid and WoW. It's the efficient thing.
It's. I would also argue it's what everything should be.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree. Like, everything should have a setup like Summoner and Scholar to where you get 2 roles in one. So, Warrior is your tank, Berserker is your DPS.
Whatever it is, however they do it. I mean, they could even do some incredibly hot nonsense and be like, "Hey, Warrior and Dragoon, you're the same class now. Whatever, you wield different weapons, just like Summoner Scholar. Whatever it is they choose to do, but they're also on record as saying that they feel like Summoner Scholar was a mistake. Yeah,
whereas I feel like it definitely was not.
Yeah, I feel like Summoner Scholar is the thing that the rest of the game should be using as a model.
Is it just they feel it's like, because it's so efficient, it's too good?
No, it's because they had issues separating their class abilities and making the jobs play differently. Like how Scholar is still the best DPS healer.
Yeah.
They did some work on that in Stormblood.
And yeah, there were definitely balance problems. But at the same time, from the experience standpoint, but I also feel like FF14 is as it gets older and the player base gets more, the like core player base gets continually more experienced, they just care less and less and less about the casual player experience. And, self-fulfilling prophecy, the casual players sort of dip out.
Yeah.
I sort of feel differently, because these things you keep saying that you will never do it is definitely possible to level a second job, whatever have you, just not quickly. There are things that will reward a lot of experience, just mostly they're limited to once a day.
Yes. If you are doing those things. So the reason that I say that it's casual unfriendly, yes, those things exist. Those are mutually exclusive with things that directly benefit your main class. First of all, like at the start, you're choosing whether you're going to commit your dailies to your main class and progress your main class or the secondary class. So if for any reason you feel like you need to level an alt class, not I want to do this for fun, you're making decisions that don't feel good. Like that's one of the parts that bugs me.
I would also point out, and like maybe you can say like I'm not a good player or something, but I am allergic to dailies because it means that the lack of variance. Like I feel like I'm being asked to do chores.
Mm-hmm. That's,
well, I'm referring to things like roulettes, which have some variance usually, but
that's fair.
Yeah, no,
the roulettes, except the roulettes have some problems with DPS queues.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I think
that part's absolutely true.
I think that the roulettes would be great. Like, I think that I like the roulette concept in theory. I just don't think, and they've done a really good job of continuing to add them so that there's just more and more of them to do, so you get even more variance. And I think that's great. Like, adding Alliance Raid roulette is great. It's just that if I get back in now, I need to either wait in a very long DPS queue to get my main character up, or I need to level up an alt character so that my queues are shorter and sacrifice progress on my main character.
I mean, mostly you're going to do leveling roulette on a leveling character, because the rewards for that does not contain the max level tomestones. So it is less to give up on your main character.
Right, but if I'm catching up, it is a lot more. It gives you a lot of the next level down tomestones, which is mostly what I use, especially if I'm catching up a main character. But also, I just wish that there were like something meaningful that I could do solo that wasn't dailies. Because I never really liked any of the Beast Tribe dailies. Like, just, they never really appealed to me. And I don't like the feeling of doing chores, like Brian said. Roulettes I do like, if I could get a decent queue length for them.
I mean, for the most part, I've combined those things. I've just done Beast Tribe dailies while waiting for a DPS queue. But
yeah,
where you also say you do not like doing things while in a queue.
I don't, because it makes me nervous that I'm going to be in the middle of something, and that stresses me out a lot. Like, it's super stressful for me to be in the middle of something and then have like my queue pop, especially because it's not the queue pop times are not, they're just random, like, or feel random. The estimated time is never what it actually is for me.
I think that's just a core DPS problem.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe...
I appreciate that it shows you what position you are at in the queue now, which helps a bit.
That does help a bit.
It is true that the time is not an indication of anything at all, and never really has been.
Yeah. And I think that, and like, I don't know, for the last couple of expansions, I've sort of felt like they really only need to add one or two things, and I would be very heavily back in that, and maybe they will. But a lot of what feels like their design philosophies are not compatible with that.
So one of the things that I've always wanted a game to do, but to the best of my knowledge, no game has actually done this thing, to where, like, especially in a situation where Final Fantasy XIV has like all these other jobs you could be doing, to where like you can designate one as your, I don't even know what to call it, but basically the one that you want your experience to go to. Yeah, I mean, like the thing you want your XP to go towards. And then you can play whatever the hell is useful, but also be leveling other classes at the same time.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah.
Like, if they did that, I mean, like, I would be all over that. Like, oh, cool. I can catch up on my main class while also getting myself closer to an alt. 100%. I'm so into this.
So I think that would be awesome. Isn't the counter argument that you are supposed to learn how to play a class by playing that class? And like, that's the entire theoretical concept behind
While yes, that is technically true, several things exist now, starting with one, the ability to buy a level 60 class.
Yeah, you can buy a level 60 class now.
And two, Palace of the Dead.
Yeah,
also
like,
that.
I mean, I leveled my classes through Palace of the Dead. Like,
prior to Palace of the Dead, the Fate Train.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
I mean,
like, yeah.
The grind isn't actually teaching you the class.
That's fair.
Yeah, and in Final Fantasy XIV, unlike other games, it's not even pretending to either. Like, they're very particular about cramming your class quests with, especially more recently, with like, hey, here's what your abilities do and how you should use them. Here's a quest that's going to at least attempt to train you on this ability. Yeah, class EXP share, amazing. I would be so into that.
Oh yeah, I would actually probably play again.
I mean, I feel like it would single-handedly fix the problem of not having enough tanks, In fact, it might create a new problem.
No, it wouldn't.
In that there would be too many tanks.
No, it wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't, because everyone would level up their tank on their DPS.
See, like for me, I would level up all of my other characters by tanking.
I would too.
Yeah.
But I was like, hell yeah.
You two
play tanks.
Yes, you two play tanks.
Like, this is easy, instant queue, and now I'm going to level my other classes.
I would do this thing, but I would do it by latching on to one of you two and leveling up in dungeons while playing DPS.
But, like, there's not been a game that I've seen that's done this thing, but it would be really popular.
Pokemon Red and Blue, or Pokemon, one of the Pokemon games?
Okay, an MMO. I have not seen an MMO do this thing.
Isn't Pokemon just a really distributed MMO?
Pokemon Normal Go doesn't have an EXP share.
Maybe think about it. It's not. The answer is it's not.
So Pokemon as a sort of casual game does kind of break down when you introduce other people.
Yeah.
I mean, it leads to really interesting competitive environments. Interesting's a word.
Sure.
What? Did you say? Wait, Pokemon does this thing?
Yeah. Haven't you ever watched the competitive Pokemon players?
I have. Interesting is a word, yes.
We just need to do something crazy, like win with a squirrel again.
Yep.
So I know another game that's been being played this week that I have not necessarily been participating in is Fallout 76. It sounds like you guys have been having crazy adventures in Fallout 76.
Man, for a game that the internet thinks isn't supposed to be fun, this game is pretty fun.
Better living through a healthy diet of purified water and dog food.
God, dog food is this weird loophole, isn't it? Like, apparently it doesn't take on radiation.
No, it does.
It does.
It does.
Just less?
No, it's just...
Or is it just real common?
There are perks that make dog food incredibly good.
Ah.
I don't actually run any of these.
It's a single point perk. I absolutely run it. So it turns out that Bethesda Game Studio did want to make an MMO, but they kind of don't know how, so they just made a single player game where a whole bunch of people can play in it together, and then when too much happens, the server crashes.
There's so I described this earlier. I forget exactly how I put it, but it was like, I would not play this game to relax. I like it quite a bit. I have a lot of fun with it. I also have a lot of fun with, like, Troika games, for example. I think they're great. There are lots of interesting ideas. They're not necessarily executed amazingly. Or, I mean, sometimes the fact that they're executed at all is pretty impressive. Which is a lot of...
the vampire here?
Yeah, I hope yes. And Fallout 76 is kind of the same way for me. Like, I'm genuinely surprised this game even exists. Mm-hmm. Much less is kind of fun to play. Like, is it... I don't know what... I mean, I do know what the internet was expecting. But, like...
I mean, they have ESO to look at now.
Sure. And this is not that either.
Yeah, but ESO is an actual MMO with actual, like, well-built server tech. I absolutely believe that there's going to be the ability to get private servers for this game.
They've already said that's a thing. I don't know why they didn't come out at launch with it.
Well, mostly because I think they're going to have to do a whole lot of, like, self-healing code to the servers that are not on their own infrastructure.
Yeah, they absolutely need to figure out how to make the whole thing even work. Because, like, in a lot of ways, you can put the game into a bunch of weird states just because it's a persistent world. Like, they're using most of the same persistent world functionality. And the dark secret that most MMOs and a lot of other things don't like to let you know about is that most games aren't persistent worlds. Like, MMOs sure aren't. They never have been. It's just that the world is online when you're not there, but that's not the same as a persistent world that actually pays attention to what you're doing to it. Fallout 76 pays attention to what you're doing to it to some extent, much less than other Bethesda games, which I think is what frustrates some people. But as much as is feasibly possible while still making a game that you can play with other people.
Yep.
And that's really weird.
It's a really... So this game like does some really cool things where it really, really does a great job of encouraging you to play with friends. You don't actually necessarily need to be playing next to those friends, but it's always generally like a good idea to be in the same group with them, just for a number of reasons. One is your camp is a free fast travel. Your friends and their camps are free fast travels. Everything else costs caps based on how close you are to it. So having a bunch of friends in their camps that are like geo-distributed across a map actually is like a really relevant thing to be able to save on caps, because you can sort of bounce around. You can also share perks. You can, and like we had a cool moment this week where I'm not high enough level to have master lockpicking, but I was able to be like, hey, Shiana, can you go ahead and share the master lockpick perk from across the map? And I was able to pick into a master lockpick. Like, there's some creative stuff you can do in this group environment where you can be in the same space, but not necessarily have to be doing the social work of doing the exact same thing. I really, really like that. That's one thing I love about MMOs and I kind of missed, was being able to be like, we're in the same world, we're both doing our own thing, but we're sort of coexisting in it.
Yeah, that part is really cool. And I really and I feel like that doesn't get enough like screen time, because you can just play with other people, and you're playing with other people in the sense that we're sitting on TeamSpeak talking about what we're doing, and if one of us finds something cool, it's really easy for the rest of us to just pop over and join, or not, whatever it is we happen to be doing.
Yeah, or perhaps like what happens to me, if I get ambushed by 2 Scorch Beasts, I can ask my good friends to kindly save me, and they can.
I have not fought a Scorch Beast, but they look horrible.
They are.
Oh, they're pretty bad. I mean, so the first time we fought one, it beat us around so badly that we needed to go like do a bunch of work to build up our
resource
stash again.
Yeah, I was completely drained of stim packs. From like I had 20 stim packs and I got down to 0, and I was like, oh, now I can't heal. Boy, was I glad that I had stashed away a bunch of Nuka-Cola.
And it's one of those things where it's like it doesn't sound fun. Like when I say it aloud, it doesn't sound fun to be like, oh well, we had to go farm a bunch of resources. Like that's I totally understand, like, oh, that doesn't sound like a fun experience. Except
but farming resources is generally through exploration in this game, right?
Yeah. So okay, I need more resources, which means I need to go find, there's like easy places to explore and there's not so easy places to explore. And I need to go find some of the easier places to explore and have kind of a relaxing exploration experience. Like, it's worth my time to go back to lower level content and either see the stuff I missed or find new areas that I didn't see or whatever it is, just because, oh, hey, I need some more screws, or I'm low on lead or copper or whatever. And sometimes that's like, oh, I found a particular place that I like to go, and I, go in there a handful of times because that's how I roll. Or it's like I go somewhere new, and both work.
Yeah.
And both work equally well, because you're not really, even if you're farming for rare drops, you're not farming like a particular specific place for rare drops. You're kind of like, well, I need screws, and I know screws are in like desk fans and globes, and there's a lot of those in office buildings, so let's go look for office buildings. Or like, I need ballistic fiber to repair my armor, that's in military complexes primarily. So let's go find like military and Brotherhood of Steel complexes, and that's where I need to go looking.
I will say one of the things that I miss the most is some of the mods that I have for Fallout 4 that makes some of these things a little bit easier. Like, there's a mod I have for Fallout 4 that anytime you cursor over an object, it tells you what kind of resources it breaks down into.
Yeah.
So there's a base functionality that does let you indicate that you're on the hunt for certain resources. And there's a bunch of stuff that I tend to just always say I'm looking for. And if I see that there's an item that doesn't have any of the stuff I'm looking for, I don't take it.
Yeah.
Because, boy, I don't need more steel.
Weirdly, I actually do now.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just sold a whole bunch of bulk steel I made.
No, it's fine.
There's a couple of other decisions I know are both frustrating, but also make it, like, encourage you to play with more people, is the fact that plans are sort of random. So more people means more likelihood, like a broader spectrum of plans that you have access to, and mods that you have access to, because you can, like, just hand somebody a weapon and have them install a mod on it for you. I also know a lot of people were very upset with the fact that there are no human NPCs in this game, but I understand that was a decision because it fits into the story they want to tell in this game and the message they are trying to get across.
Yeah, I had the same.
I was also going to comment here about it being easier to animate robots, but they did a whole bunch of animations for players, so...
Yeah, well, I absolutely thought that there was a whole, like, man, this is... I understand why you would want to do it, but it feels a little lazy. No. It's a considered design decision. Like, it's something that somebody put a bunch of thought into and said, no, we specifically don't want to have any people because in a lot of ways it is furthering like Kodra was saying, the story we want to tell and the message we want to send. Because this is a Fallout game that is incredibly unsubtle about some of the stuff that it wants to say, even by Fallout standards, which is, I think, pretty neat.
Yeah, this is a game about what happens when automation is fully embraced.
Yeah.
The other thing that it does that is sort of just a side benefit is it allows the game to actually humanize all of the humans in it. Like, that was a big complaint about Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 was that, like, Raiders are red means dead. Like, you don't have the ability to have nuance in the Raiders when they're immediately aggroing on you. Well, there's no Raiders in this game, but you can find all of their stories, and their stories are probably more in line with the Raider stories of Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. Like, exploring the various Raider hideouts, and, like, I just did one who hold themselves up in a mine and, like, sort of alluding to the pasts they've left behind and the reasons why they're doing what they are doing and their own self-doubts about the actions they're taking. It was like it was genuinely sad when, like, the end for them came.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was really interesting that somebody mentioned was somebody I was reading on online mentioned is that this game really shines when you play it like you're a historian, not a hero. And I find that really interesting because you're not. Like, you're really not much of a hero. For a couple of reasons. Like,
there's not a lot to save.
There's not a lot to save, and there's not really a villain. Like, the environment sucks, and you're doing a lot to make the environment less sucky in a variety of ways. But what's really cool is, oh hey, you get to find out how the Brotherhood of Steel was founded, and, like, see the really human parts of the Brotherhood of Steel being founded and how it got to where it is.
I remember you talking about the various timeline things involved in Fallout, and this is set before any of the other games.
Yeah.
Yes. Which doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense with some stuff. Like, there are super mutants, and the story of Fallout, that doesn't quite make sense. Unless we find out that there was a second FEV on the East Coast.
Yes. And you do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. It's yeah, well that's the other thing, is because this is so, compared to other Fallout games, this is so recent, like recent to the end of the actual like bombs. There's you get to see a lot of what was going on right before, a lot more than most other Fallout games.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously it's not great, but it's also really interesting, because it's like, oh, there's a bunch of other stuff that's going real badly that suggests that like maybe you don't want, maybe like restoring the old world is not actually something to aspire to here.
Yeah, like maybe the problem wasn't just that the bombs were dropped. Maybe everything was too far gone beyond that.
Maybe maybe a situation such that the bombs were dropped was so bad that like it wasn't really going to be saved. Because a lot of other Fallout games have the thing where it's like a lot of the coolest parts of the game are the old world parts of the game, where like, I mean, and that's definitely been how I felt about it, is, oh, hey, here's stuff that's preserved. It's better. It's nice. And like, this game really repudiates that in a big way. You know, no, the Enclave are terrible people. Like, why are the Enclave bad? Well, they were the bad guys in previous Fallout games. The Enclave being the remnants of Congress, basically. The remnants of the U.S. government holed up in a bunker, planning contingency planning for the apocalypse. But like, they're awful from previous Fallout games, but you don't really, or I never really got a good sense as to why. Whereas this game makes it abundantly clear.
This game also has a couple of things where they've definitely beefed stuff up. You never got swarmed in previous Fallout games like you do in this one.
Well, I mean, in previous Fallout games, Bethesda couldn't handle more than 3 models on screen at a time.
Yup. Boy, can you feel it. Like, getting swarmed in previous games, I mean, it was 3 guys fighting you, they had to be pretty tough. I had 50 feral ghouls attack me at one point. And that's an extended battle that about 20 feral ghouls in, I heard the sound of my primary weapon breaking and was like, oh no. Now I have to run and like readopt new tactics. Like, it was making all of the things go right to make me like have a tense moment.
Yeah, with otherwise trivial enemies. Because I mean, I'm guessing they were like no higher than level 15 or so.
Oh, they were anywhere from level 15 to level 40, but no feral, like, as I said in, I think, the last show, level numbers don't matter as much as the enemy type you're fighting.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Feral ghouls, for the most part, aren't terribly scary. I would rather fight a level 60 Protecton than a level 1 Assaultron.
Yeah. Assaultrons are terrible.
Assaultrons are terrible. Also, we got completely suckered in because we had just taken down like a level 58 Wendigo when we saw the Scorch Beast, and we're like, oh yeah, we could take a Scorch Beast. No, we could not take the Scorch Beast.
That Scorch Beast is only level 50. We just killed something that was level like 58. How hard could it be? Really hard.
We gotta turn around. This here's Bat Country. Yeah, I enjoy this game because all of the humans I encounter, I understand their motivations. Like, I empathize with the humans in this game way more than, like, not that I'm encountering any humans, but I'm encountering their remnants. The evidence that they existed.
I think that's the thing I like the most about it is I always liked reading notes in games and things that, like, I wasn't necessarily supposed to find. Whereas NPC dialogue, yeah, it's cool, especially if it's well written. But, like, I always liked... So the thing that Tam told us about ESO was it was a tale of bad camping trips. And, like, the notes that you found at those campsites were so good. Like, they were great. And this is a game where you're just finding the remnants of another civilization all the time.
Yeah, and I think that was why the comment that I was reading about, like, play this game as a historian, not a hero, really resonated, because it makes sense to me in that way. Like, what I'm going around is collecting all of these remnants so that all of these people's, like, work can be remembered.
So you're signing up for the Brotherhood then?
I mean, even the Brotherhood of Steel is doing this thing. Like, there's records of the founding of the Brotherhood of Steel, and I find that fascinating. And, like, probably it's stuff that people knew before, but I didn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of deep lore in Fallout 76.
Yeah.
It also, like, has a really cool like, their perk system. I don't remember if this is how the perks worked in Fallout 4, but it's really cool in this game. Although did Fallout 4 have it did have survival mode, but it wasn't by default.
Yeah. And I never really got into survival mode in other Fallout games, but I really like it here. Just because it drives that go explore places cycle.
Yeah.
And going and exploring, like, in a lot of ways it's still a Bethesda game, so you can go back to the same place and find stuff that you didn't see the first time. And normally the impetus, there's no in-game impetus to go back to a place that's marked cleared and find stuff that you didn't see before. But in this one, there absolutely is. Because you want to go back, like, oh, hey, this is a place, I'm low on resources, I need easy fights, or I'm using a different gun and I want to get used to it, I need easy fights. Cool. The game will let you do that. No problem. You can do that thing. It's worth your time. It's worth your while. And it'll give you, something useful. And you might find something new that you hadn't seen before. 76 is a big experiment, and I'm interested to see where they go with it.
It's kind of a weird game, but I feel like the game that's there is, like, really fun.
It's an incredibly weird game. I'm surprised it exists.
I feel like this is the culmination of everything people have said they've wanted for so long. I mean, didn't everyone want to be able to play Bethesda games with their friends in a big, like, wouldn't it be cool if Morrowind was an MMO? I'm pretty sure I said that, like, 13, 14 years ago.
I mean, Morrowind is a pretty great MMO.
Yeah, but I can't play with my friends, so that was what I wanted.
I mean, Morrowind is a pretty great MMO.
Right.
Like, that's an expansion for ESO.
Yes. We did have a moment where we set off a bomb so hard that the server crashed, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was a good time. Yeah.
Like, literally, the event had the bombs touch down on where we were, and then the server crashed.
Yeah, you got to see the first flash, and then...
I feel like you have to kind of go into this with the opinion that, like, you're on a server much the same as, like, back in the olden days of FPS gaming.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it is very much a fallible server.
Yeah, that's why I was like, what I think they need to do is figure out some, like, auto remediation for their server tech before they put it on infrastructure they don't have, like, explicit control over.
Just reboot the world, right?
Yeah, but, like, that is their actual answer, is just reboot the world. But, like, they have a way of siphoning you off to a different server and having a script go and reboot the server, their server, when it's on somebody's private equipment. Like,
when you say that there's a script to shuffle you to a different server, is what you're saying they have a system in place to crash everybody out to main menu and then have you log back in? Okay,
that's their script.
Got it. Okay,
it's very effective.
Making sure.
I feel like they need to talk to the folks at ArenaNet because their server technology does a pretty good job of self-healing.
I mean, they could also just talk to
the folks at Tuxedomask Online.
Yeah. Who?
Okay, so that's another pet peeve of mine. Like, these are functionally like a parent-child relationship between these two places. Why the hell is the Bethesda launcher separate from the ESO launcher? That drives me insane.
Because ESO's launcher came first. So they probably have to do some serious rewriting to get it into the Bethesda launcher.
It's like, can we just have, like, sure.
I accept the fact that
you're...
Sort of. It's actually, like...
I mean, there could also be petty reasons, but...
It is probably unprofessional of me to go into detail.
Fair enough.
Suffice it to say that your initial comment of the ESO launcher was made first is important, is accurate and important, although possibly not for the reasons you think.
I mean, all I'm saying is, like, I would love to have one less launcher on my system, since everyone seems to want their own launcher.
Everyone's going to their own launcher now. Everyone.
Yeah, I know.
Because CD Projekt Red wants you to just use the GOG launcher.
And
so their new game is going to be completely exclusive to it until it's suddenly not, and they remove all previous statements that it would be.
So I was going to go play Fallout 76 the other night, and Quake Champions was trying to patch, and the launcher seemed to think that I really wanted to play that instead.
I feel like you could just uninstall Quake Champions.
I uninstalled Quake Champions so that thing would never happen again.
It's not that Quake Champions is a bad game.
It's not a great game.
It's Quake.
I just got
Quake's not really a great game either. Like,
I just got murdered by a frog the size of a minivan.
I was an Unreal Tournament player, so...
I was never competitive enough for that kind of shooter. I really enjoyed Unreal Tournament's, like, raid mode, where you had vehicles and stuff, and you played against bots.
The brief amount that I played Quake Champions basically taught me that I don't really want that kind of game anymore. Anyway, we have gone over at this point, so let's wrap things up. Any final comments?
2 weeks till Smash Brothers.
Or, if you ordered from the right places, you've already been playing it.
I will miss you guys next week because I'm going to be off.
There's Smash Brothers copies in the wild that have already been shipped out. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.